Hey guys, we're back.
Yeah.
We've been meandering through a lot of different things,
Yeah.
but
I
we
think
just.
that happens when we don't see each other or
I
talk. We're just like,
know.
oh wait, what about this?
I
We
know.
know we need to film. Wait, what
Exactly.
about this?
So we think we're going to film about a few things, but then
Yeah.
we got started talking about something
Yeah.
that we've both been
Oh.
really drawn to lately, which is kind of the three in the one, right? And
Yeah.
I think we've referenced it a few times in videos.
I know you've done it on
I've
your own
talked
personal.
on
Yeah.
it on my own personal.
And then I talked on my personal because you brought it up and talked so much about how they all three go together and because I tried to talk about it the other day and said like the law of one, but it wasn't the law of one, it's the Trinity.
Yeah, the
basically,
Trinity.
right?
Mhm.
But not necessarily religious Trinity, but it's the spiritual, physical, mental and emotional. Sorry.
Yeah, exactly. So since this kind of came into my consciousness, which is like the three, it was
Yeah.
like this kind of compelling idea, and I couldn't quite wrap my head around it. So I'd process it with you and just kind of try to figure out like what are we supposed to
Yeah, what are
know
we supposed
about
to do with
this?
this
What are we supposed
three?
to know
Yeah,
about this?
yeah.
And my first kind of understanding of it was when I was reading the passage in the Bible, where two or three are gathered in my name, there am I in your midst. And this is something, from my parents, right, exactly. From my parents was just something we always said. So, and the understanding was very physical.
Yeah.
When you and me and another person gets together,
Yeah.
two or three, and we all pray the same thing,
Yeah.
then we can expect our prayers to be answered.
Oh, okay.
Right, so it's like a very physical understanding
Yes,
of it.
very
And that's how
literal.
it, literal and physical.
Yeah.
Like there has to be people gathered,
Right.
and
Which is a part of it.
which I think is a part.
Yeah.
And I think there's lots in the Bible that can be taken literally,
Yes.
and we can use
Yes.
literally.
Yes. Which I think it was used for that, or it was written for that.
Maybe,
Maybe.
but I wonder if, as I was meditating on this, if it wasn't written to help us understand that we have to be in alignment with our bodies, our emotions, and our spirit. Like mind, body, and spirit.
Right.
Those three have to gather and be in alignment
Yeah.
for God to be in our midst.
I absolutely believe that.
So,
Yeah.
but I don't think it's taught like that traditionally.
No.
I mean, it's not
And I
taught to be an
think-
allegorical thing. Like, you
No.
need to consider all things
No.
from a physical, mental, and spiritual perspective
Right.
and get those in alignment
Yeah.
in order to see change in your life.
No, I mean, I think you and I kind of came up with that ourselves.
Yeah.
Like you doing your own work, me doing my own work. And it was brought up because you had said that. And I kind of took it and was like, oh, okay. And then as I'm like doing stuff with like the food, we were sitting here talking about food and how I always thought it was just the physical food that's going to heal me. And yeah, it's a part of it. And we even talked about that before. It's like, yeah, well, it's a part of it. And it's like, I thought it was everything.
Yeah.
And it's not. And it's the physical, the spiritual, and the emotional. And then as we were just sitting here talking about like pizza, like I was saying, yeah, like if my body's craving pizza, allowing myself to actually even question having pizza, because I would never allow myself to have pizza before.
Yeah.
And then it not being just the physical piece, but like the spiritual, emotional piece, like that healing that I need to have of saying, it's okay.
Mm-hmm.
And how do you feel?
Yeah.
Right? The emotional, it's okay. How do you feel about this? And it's like, oh yeah, I love it. There's no guilt.
Mm-hmm.
And like what Tommy John says, I love what he says. A happy donut is better than a sad salad.
I know.
I mean,
I
it's
love
one of my
it.
favorite lines because I would be one of those people that would beat myself up for eating a donut, but I craved it so much, I just wanted to eat it. But then I'd always sit over there and eat my salad, and it was just as detrimental as if I would have just had the donut.
Yeah, I mean, when we think on the physical and
Yeah.
only things affect us physically,
Yeah.
and what we put, like again, the literal interpretation of
Yes.
what we put in our body
Yes.
is going to make a physical impact,
Right.
positive or negative.
Right.
We are completely missing the other two elements of the mental and the mind and the spirit.
Yeah.
And so as we begin to explore like, okay, if it's beyond physical,
Yeah.
then what does that mean?
Right.
And I loved when you were talking about the pizza and just saying the idea, I mean, because both of us have restricted ourselves so much, like in a literal sense, with what we eat and what we've told ourselves we should eat and shouldn't eat, and had all these rules, right? Meanwhile, no awareness of what it was doing to us mentally and what it was doing to us spiritually.
Oh, absolutely.
So as we begin to let go of these physical rules and restrictions, now we have to tap into, okay, what is required now mentally and spiritually to heal that?
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, it's kind of like
I'm trying to just really be in the moment when I'm doing it now, and like I was telling her, like, I know it may not look like I've gained weight, but I feel it and I know it because I put on my clothes and they don't fit. And so before, I would have just talk about mental breakdown. I would have just been, beating myself up and having to restrict again and all that. But like, I physically can't do that anymore. My body won't let me. I can't not eat.
You're feeling very hungry these days.
Hungry all the time and thirsty. Like it's just like I can't get enough, and I'm eating constantly. So I know I'm gaining a little weight, but that's maybe on purpose. And when I'm wearing those clothes that don't fit, I'm really trying to just sit in my body and feel it before I would run away or punish myself. I'd actually like physically like hit myself, just be like, oh, I'm so mad, I'm so angry, it's this and that, So it's that emotional piece of just healing and just being like, it's okay, how do you feel? What's coming up right now? What trauma is coming up from your past? Can you look at it? Can you see it? Because physically now I'm having to see it. It's on my body. I'm having to physically look at it. So I can't run away from it anymore, so I need to really look at it and feel it.
And trust that there's something going on spiritually and mentally that you may not even, I mean, we say mentally and emotionally kind of in the same vein, interchangeably, but it's like there may be something that you need, some healing that you need spiritually and emotionally that's happening right now, and you just have to sit with the physical that's uncomfortable while the spiritual and the emotional begins to heal.
And as you're saying that, it's just it's such a calm feeling because I have hope that I know that I won't always feel like this. I know my body probably won't look like this in a year or whatever, and if it does, it's okay, because it's more of just the mental piece of it, of just being okay with all the other healing that's going on. And this is what healing looks like. I was telling you the other day as I was walking and just having a really hard time holding on to it and processing it and feeling it. And when I had said it last year, like, I just want to heal, like, well, this is what healing looks like. It doesn't look like you're going to be a stick figure, the way I want to think healing looks like. It's never going to look like that, because that's what I think it looks like. It's not what God's plan is. So it's all of it. And if it looks overweight, if it looks whatever in my eyes, it's like, you have no idea the cellular healing, the spiritual healing, the emotional healing that's going on right now. And it doesn't happen just like that. It takes some time because there's a lot of trauma there.
There's a lot to heal. There's layers to heal. And there's a lot unseen. The years of your restriction and your thoughts and your emotions that you put into it that weren't healthy, that were traumatizing. And I mean, it's like when I decided I had done a lot of healing with the raw and all of that stuff, and decided, like, dude, I cannot restrict myself that much or be that. It just took so much energy and so much work that I was like, I'm done. Like, I can't do this anymore. And I literally thought, like, I remember sitting down with my husband and being like, I might, like, for a year, I might just eat whatever I want and get a little fat. So we're like 3 years now. And I know that we've talked about this before, and I'm always so shocked because, like, I remember reading a book, a woman who talked about how weight was a very spiritual thing. And how your body and, like, how you eat was really about God. And this was back in my 20s. And she talked about that year where she just got up and ate cookies because that's what she wanted. And then there came a time where she didn't want cookies anymore and she wanted something else. You know, like she had had that freedom.
Yes.
So when I entered into this, I had an awareness like, okay, this is the journey I'm going on, this freedom journey of like, I'm tired of telling myself what food is good and what food is not and what's going to heal me and what's not. Like, I just want to live.
Yes.
And meanwhile, I gained weight.
You're right.
And was thinking, oh, but it'll end.
Right.
Right? It'll be just about a
I'm
year.
gonna do it in
Yeah.
a year. It'll
And then it'll
happen in a year.
end.
Yeah, that's your plan.
But it didn't for me.
No.
And I'm still having to recover. But what's interesting is that I do see myself really healing spiritually and emotionally because I've gotten to the point, like I was feeling the same thing you were, like, oh my God, I'm buying bigger clothes. What am I doing? This is crazy. This is out of control. I've got to, but I couldn't.
It's just like this. It's
you just can't.
Unspeakable. It's the spiritual.
Exactly.
It's being like, you can't anymore. You tried it your way. Not happening.
You've ignored me for too long. It's like your spirit saying, I'm taking over.
Yes.
You made this a shit show.
Exactly.
So it's like, so you know what? It's not going to look the way you want.
Exactly.
But I'm in charge now, and I know you want to go back to writing down every little thing that you're eating.
Yes.
But you're not going to do that. And so, like, I couldn't force myself. But like, I'm in a place now where I feel so good. Like, I feel good, and I'm not worried about my body. Like, I'm not. And my husband and my kids, they see that.
Yeah, I love that.
And like, my husband is like, I'm more attracted to you than I ever have been. And he was one who always wanted me to lose weight. Like, you know,
that
it's good. His vision for me was to be a lot thinner.
Yeah.
And was always worried that I would gain weight. Meanwhile, these past 3 years I have, and he's shocked.
He loves you even more.
Oh, and he's just like,
I love that.
I love the way you look and feel and all of that stuff.
Because it's all about you. It's your aura.
Because it's my healing.
It's you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's
and when you heal that, it's like it's contagious, right?
Exactly. He sees that. That's what he sees. That's the irresistible part.
Exactly.
It's not my body having, you know, like.
And we are so programmed as women that it has to be the body to be loved. It has to be the body to be fulfilled, satisfied, etc. And it's not.
No.
And it never can be. So to have that realization for yourself, and then your husband to see that as a man who is bombarded with
I literally never thought that I always thought he'd be judging me for me being like this right now. And he's come out and been like, I love you like this.
I love that.
And so for me, it's like, okay, there's healing going on, and you can't physically see it, and yet my husband is responding to it.
Exactly.
I'm responding to it.
And there's something bigger there that's working there, and it's got to be the spiritual piece.
And you've got to trust that. And it's just not going to be on a timeline that you can predict.
Exactly. And the trust is, it's finally, like, for me, it's like finally in my face, where it's like, you can't run away from this anymore. It's almost like you're forced to trust. Like, because my body's at the point where it's like, it's going to shut down if you try to do this again because you've abused it so long. You're being forced to trust it now. And it's like, okay, I'm listening. It's hard.
Yeah.
You know, but it's like, oh, I'm listening, you know?
Yeah. And like trusting that where you are right now, as you get uncomfortable in your clothes and all of that stuff, and you're kind of like, I mean, it's okay if I'm like this in a year. The reality is the healing that's taking place mentally and emotionally, it will be okay like this if you're in a year.
And that's exactly where I was, because we talked about this before. There's a woman that I follow on Instagram, Lose Weight with Kate, and she had one of her things that she says to her clients is, if you were given your perfect body tomorrow, would you know how to maintain it? And I remember thinking, absolutely not. I would have no clue. And of course, my initial thought when I first saw that was, oh, physically. Oh yeah, and food, and you know, like I could probably do that. And then it was just like, she means the whole thing.
Right.
The emotional, the physical, and the spiritual.
Right.
Could you maintain all that? Because it's not just the one. It has to be all three.
It's not. I mean, it totally is. It's because when you said that to me, I was like, oh man, yeah. Because really what came up for me was like, I don't deserve it. Like, again, still connected to like, look what I eat. I still eat, you know, like pizza, and I still have
Still that punishment
wine.
mindset,
Right. So it's like,
like,
I couldn't deserve
I don't
it.
deserve this. Yeah, I'm not worthy.
So it's just reflecting to me, excuse me,
Yeah.
how stuck I still am in that mind control and that idea of what I'm allowed to have
Yes.
based on what somebody told me was
Exactly.
appropriate. You
Right,
know what I mean?
Right. And then we latch onto it like it's as if it's the truth.
Yeah.
And it's just something that happened from childhood or whatever.
Yeah.
Thinking like, oh yeah, well someone said this one time, or I thought I saw whatever one time, was like, oh well that's what I want, so then I'm going to do it that way, without it even being real or true. I mean, it's just funny what we latch onto.
Yeah.
And then it becomes our whole story. Our
Oh,
whole life,
and
right?
we can't let it go. I mean, like
No.
even the consequences, like, oh, I used this food program to lose weight.
Yeah.
It must have been because of this food program, and it's
Exactly.
like not
No.
necessarily. No.
No, and that's a big lesson for me, because it was, back when I was eating, very clean and all that stuff, I did lose weight. I mean, I was down at my lowest I'd ever been. So then I tried to go back to that, and my body was literally rejecting it and being like, no, because it's not that. And I just kept on trying to hold on to it. I mean, this is just recently, like
Yeah.
within the last month, and being like, no, no, it is. Like,
Yeah.
I remember being like, it's okay.
Yeah.
And then it's like, no, stop.
Yeah,
It's not
exactly.
that, right?
Yeah,
It
exactly.
that's not what made you thin. You were in a totally different space. And
Different
it just happened
mindset,
to work
different-
out maybe,
exactly,
but
yeah.
It was not that.
But you literally have no connection with what really impacted those results.
Exactly. When you just focus on, or like for me, I was just focusing on the physical part.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly.
So
So, and
funny.
it's just the more we can really understand and value mind, body, spirit,
Yeah.
3 in 1, and how they all are so integral to
Yeah.
our healing, to our expression, to all of it.
All of it.
And sometimes we just don't even understand.
No. And maybe we're not supposed to at
Yeah.
that moment. It's just kind of like, okay, I'm going with this.
But trusting,
Trust.
like you said,
Yes.
trusting that something's happening.
Yeah. And yeah, I mean, and I think it is like, it's those little things where like your husband said something to you about that, or, I noticed something different or whatever. It's just like, that's where that trust comes in, because it's like, oh yeah, there is lots of healing going on here, but it's just not necessarily physical.
And not how I would picture
And not how I would
healing to
picture
look.
it.
Right. Healing must be weight loss.
Yes.
To heal,
Yes.
you must be thin.
Exactly. Yeah. And oh, you're just doing everything right. Like, oh, you're such in a great space. You're so mentally whatever. And because you're thin.
Right, exactly.
But then, like, because I was thinking about this, like, if I went back and saw people from like 2 years ago or a year ago and saw them now, I'd be like, oh, well, she put on a lot of weight, and she said she was doing really well. She said she was really healthy, and
Yeah.
she said she was really doing that. But then it's like, how did it feel? How did I feel when I was with them? How did they see me in that sense without looking at the physical body?
Right.
But that's my judgments.
Yeah,
Those are my
absolutely.
things, because they probably were like, whatever, I don't see anything.
Yeah.
And it's like, what, really? You don't? You know?
But yeah,
And they
right,
feel it,
exactly.
you
I
know?
mean, that exactly. When I see someone who's gained weight, I'll be like, oh, they must be going through a hard time.
Yeah.
Yes,
I know. It's just like, that's immediately where we go, right?
Yeah.
Without even like,
And it's like, it's so funny for me because every year I've gotten happier and happier, and it's like counterintuitive for me.
Yeah.
I'm like, I can't be
You're like,
happy
wait, what?
while,
This doesn't
you know.
make any sense.
Exactly.
well, and my whole mindset and my whole, from growing up, and I think this is just in general for a lot of women too, is that, to be valued, to be loved, to fit in, you gotta be skinny.
Mm-hmm.
That's the only way anybody will value you or
Right.
love you or whatever.
Oh, absolutely.
And so you do that your whole life. You punish yourself your whole life to try to fit that ideal. And then, because I was thinking about this the other day, if I had that perfect body, would I be happy?
Yeah.
No,
Mhm.
I would not be, because that's not what happiness is.
Right.
And that was a hard lesson for me to learn. It's just like, okay, so that's not what happiness is. All right, now I have to really look at
Exactly.
happiness is.
Yeah, I mean, it was kind of nice when you had the answer, even when it was
Solve
the
the answer,
wrong
yeah.
answer. That's better than having to like search for another answer. But
Yeah, because that's easy.
yeah, exactly.
Well, and then you just keep blaming and punishing and being like, well, but it's this. And then
Yeah.
it's like, oh, well, here's all the evidence,
Well, right, and just kind of like figuring out the next program that's going to get you there.
Yes,
You know what I mean? Like that's
yes.
fun,
And
right? And then
always
trying it all
run
out.
around the corner, it's another new thing. thing, right? Paleo, keto, Weight Watchers,
Exactly.
raw.
Yeah.
I mean, they're all there.
Yeah,
There's many of them.
plenty
but
that you could try.
yes. But will it bring you happiness? Just
Yeah.
like money will bring you happiness.
Yeah. And will it bring you healing?
Will it bring you healing? Yeah.
I'm gonna say no. There's more to it than that.
Oh yeah.
Definitely more to it than that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
All
Awesome.
right, I think we talked. Oh, I was gonna say, did that say 30 minutes? I was
No.
like, well, we talked
Whoa.
a lot of time. Yeah, 20 minutes.
All right. Thanks
Take
for
care.
being here.
Bye.
Bye.